Barriers to distance learning. 2020 was an extremely interesting year, starting with the Australian wildfires and ending with a global pandemic. Now, I remember sitting in my biology class, and about once a month we would do current events. And starting in January, whenever everyone was hearing about coronavirus for the first time, I decided I would be going over coronavirus every single current event after that. The week before we shut down, I did a final current event talking about how there were 3 cases in Houston, Texas, and how we didn't know what was going to happen next week. Whenever everyone went on spring break, we were all so excited to hear we got a final week extension. We had 2 weeks of spring break instead of just the one. And then after that, a 3rd week was added. And after that, we were told that school would be online for the next couple of weeks until everything simmered back down. And further we went on until school was online for the rest of the semester. And summer felt very weird because we'd already been home for 2 months. Nothing was the same. Everyone was very scared. No one knew what was going on. No one knew what the next chapter in our lives would look like. No one thought that a world pandemic was going to do this, would teach us this much, would change so many things. Being quarantined in our homes for months without being able to go outside except for extremely important reasons was a very interesting and very terrifying experience for many people. Without social interaction and without being able to do what we normally do, we are creatures of nature. We're creatures that love habits, and having those destroyed was very detrimental to our daily routines and to our mental health. When we were finally able to come out of quarantine, being among people in the real world again, but only seeing half of their faces, was very, very interesting. But to keep everyone safe, we needed to wear the masks and make sure that everyone would be healthy. In the beginning, a lot of people thought it was bogus, but obviously masks do help, and us wearing them keeps everyone safe. So us having to wear these in our normal lives has changed so many things, to where I watch a movie and I look at the characters and wonder why they're not wearing one. And I have to remember, oh yeah, this movie was made before a huge global pandemic came and ruined everyone's lives for a year. With hopes of a vaccine coming soon and everything being able to go back to normal, schools are getting really excited because we finally get to have the normal years again. It's not going to be all Zoom or hybrid schedules. It's going to be everyone can come back and enjoy actual education. The thing that hurt schools worst was COVID. COVID affected so many things, but education among so many students was changed forever. So whenever schools had to scramble to come up with something to make sure the students were still learning, a lot of teachers turned to Zoom. Now, Zoom is a platform where people can video chat each other, and a lot of teachers, especially harder subjects like sciences and maths, were making sure that they were contacting their students every day that they could to make sure that they would pass the class. But the complicated thing is, a lot of teachers could barely get their students to do one assignment a week, let alone pass the class with flying colors like they used to. Students that weren't able to access Zoom had to do paper packets at my school. This meant that at the beginning of the time period, whenever we were learning, we were doing online, you had to go to the school, get a huge paper packet, and fill it out for the remaining of the school year. And then at the end, you would turn it in. But a lot of the teachers didn't end up grading these, considering touching them could be contaminating for the virus. So what did schools do after that? Well, there's a lot of problems that come with having to transition from a year like last year to starting out a school year where COVID is still here. 14% of all high school age students don't have access to Wi-Fi at home. 17% of those students don't have access to computers or laptops, smartphones, anything that they're able to access school apps on. And 64% of high school students have 2 working parents who aren't able to come home and help them with problems on their math homework or on their science homework, aren't able to help them with problems with their technology if they're able to have it. And it really just makes the situation really sticky. But teachers, don't worry. There is a solution to making sure that our students can learn again and making sure that their education is still something they are going to value in the next coming years. So what can the school district do exactly about ensuring the fact that students that don't have access to internet or to technology at home, that they can still get a good education? My school got a grant from Texas, and it allowed them to buy a lot of hotspots. So every single student at my school who doesn't have access to good Wi-Fi at their house got a hotspot. Also, with the grant, we were able to purchase a lot of Chromebooks, which are very simple laptops that the students could take home if they didn't have any at home, not access to a computer, access to a laptop, and they were able to do schoolwork on these, and they would connect very easily with the hotspots. Still, if your hotspot were to fail, or last semester, like when everyone didn't know what was going on, students are allowed to go park at any of the schools or any of the admin buildings where they have free Wi-Fi, and you can stay there anytime you need to complete your schoolwork. And another good solution for kids that don't have access to really good technology or really good Wi-Fi are virtual teachers who are already staying home because of risks, going out and, of course, socially distancing and being extremely safe, but trying to meet up with the students in very safe terms. During quarantine, whenever things were really bad, teachers were meeting students through their windows or through their doors to make sure that their students were passing and still being successful students. And I feel like this is still a very, very well inclusive way to teach the students to make sure that they are still being taught the way that they need to. They're still retaining information the way that they should. Now, what can we do as a nation to make sure that all of the students here in America are getting the education that they should? Starting off, students, they're going to need as much encouragement as they can. Whether or not they have good technology, whether or not they have good Wi-Fi, they're still going to need to be pushed up because this year has been so hard on everybody. They're just constantly being pushed down. As a nation, we can get grants from the government. The schools just have to know how to apply. Like my town, we figured out we could apply to Texas, and they gave us a grant for the hotspots and the laptops. A lot of schools can apply to their local government and get a bunch of these grants. And nationwide, that would be amazing. A lot of places would get exactly what they needed for their students, and it wouldn't be such big of a problem because we would know exactly what we needed, and we could get exactly what we would need. But it's important for us to realize that as a nation, the most important things are the students. Whether or not that they are rich or poor, they are minorities or majorities, no matter what, they need to feel like they're safe and they're getting their good education. And inequalities among all of these are going to be very common, but we have to try and accommodate to every single student's needs, because even if something can't happen, we need to figure out a way to make it possible for a different option. My school just figured out that we could get a grant, and that's how we got the hotspots and the computers. And if your school can't do that, then figure out another way to be able to make the students feel comfortable and in their own skin whenever they're learning or trying to figure out their education, just like everyone else. Because students are the reason why we're at school. They're the reason we become teachers. We want to be able to help them. They're the only reason we're there. And if we can't help them through their education to become whatever they want to be, then why are we there? Inequalities amongst people are always going to be there. And with this new world pandemic, a lot of things have come up, a lot of problems, and a lot of problems require a lot more solutions. As a nation, we can come together and try to figure out exactly what we need to be able to survive and be successful during this pandemic. For my school, that was reaching out to local government and making sure we could get the money for grants and computers for hotspots. But after that, it's kind of in your own hands. You have to make sure that your school district is doing exactly what they need to ensure your student body is being successful. I hope that you enjoyed this and you can take a little bit from what my school did. Hopefully it can help your school. My only goal here is to make sure that students everywhere can get the education that they need, even if they don't have access to good Wi-Fi, to good hotspots, or to good computers. Thank you guys.